Hello and welcome to a quick Tableau tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at the data source page inside of Tableau Desktop. Now this is an exciting area. If you haven't seen it before, this is the place where you're going to be bringing data into the product, and then later you'll be visualizing that data. Today we'll be using Sample Superstore, and that's under your saved data sources. Very good. Now that we've opened up that, we want to get to the data source page. You can get there by double clicking on your data source. Now that should drive you here. And let's talk about what everything is. On the far left, this is called a left pane. Here you can find your tables and various things that can help you, maybe using the data interpreter. Now this is something that I'm not going to use and I've never used it before. Here you can see where data sources are coming into the workbook, and they are called connections. You can also add a new connection, which could be a data source that is not a spreadsheet. Notice we're looking at Microsoft Excel, which is underneath the data source in the left pane where it says connections. You can see Microsoft Excel there. You can also bring in something completely different and join this table to a different data source. Maybe you have MySQL or Oracle, one of the many Oracle databases, Google Sheets. So anything can be placed in here, which is very exciting. Let's talk about what this is. This is called a canvas. And if you double click on this, this is also called a canvas. I'm going to close this canvas out. Let's talk about what this canvas provides you. This is called a logical layer. And if you highlight, it even says this is a logical table. And if you double click it, you'll be able to see the physical table. The physical table is where I can join. Notice the inner join, left join, right join, full outer, and here's the relationship. Now let's check out what we can do in the dropdown. We can do the dropdown, we can duplicate this, we can remove it, and we can also convert it to a union. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. And I will close this physical layer, which is called a canvas. So we've looked at where you can do your joins by double clicking and getting into the physical layer. And I'll close this canvas. And now we're back on another canvas, which is your starting point. And by clicking on things, look what happens in the bottom. Our data grid, which is this bottom portion here, shows a top 1,000 of what's available inside the data source. Let's click on this. This is a new part of Tableau. Right here, if you're already confused, I like that it has a learn more, because I know that when I first saw this, I wasn't really sure what was going on. Now, there is a difference between joins and what Tableau calls a relationship. If you want to learn more about this, I will leave this link in the description. And I just want to point out that you can also change some settings. So if Tableau is automatically assuming things incorrectly, you can go in here and make a change and adjust things so that it makes more sense. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And again, let's see what we can do here. We can open, rename. Rename is nice. And we can also remove, and we can move it to a different area, which is interesting. Let's do people. Notice that it's having trouble establishing a field to generate a relationship. Let's go ahead and do the undo button to put it back to where it was. Okay. Now that we know about this canvas, and this is again the logical layer, double clicking here opens the physical layer where again you can do your joins, which you might be more used to. In this area, Tableau is trying to help end users that have no idea how to do those joins like this. And that can be a helpful thing, but it also can be a little complicated to comprehend whenever you switch to the physical layer. So inside of this canvas, this is again the logical layer. I'm hitting Control Z, and notice we lost what was inside of there. And it even had a little emblem. There it is, showing that something is happening, which is actually really beneficial. I like that. All right, now I hit the undo button. You can also hit Control Z. Now let's take a peek at this top area here. Whenever you're connecting to any data source, you can choose whether it's live or extract. Now, I really like that it does give information here when you highlight, which most parts of the product do. And let's just read it really quick. The speed of your data source will determine performance. Extract. Extracts are usually a lot faster, but it depends. Now, if you have a live connection to a data source that, let's just say it's running in memory, and that means you have faster access to this data. If it is set up and created so that you can live connect to it, then this is where you would connect to a big data source. Extract, I recommend using Extract if the data source is not built for a live connection. And typically Extract is what you will use whenever you're aggregating your data. If you're using big data, you should already know, and you'll be using your live connect. Extract, again, will generate a file, which is definitely beneficial because this file will live on your computer, and you want things to live on your computer. You don't want to have to connect to the data source and then it says, yes, you're this person, you have access. And okay, there's this big handshake that we're not going to get into networking today, but there is a handshake that is happening and there is a latency involved. If I use Extract, now I'm putting the file on my computer, my local computer, and that allows me to access the data instantaneously. And this is a bit of a more seamless process, and generating extracts is also nice because it compresses the data up to usually 80, even up to 90%. And that just gets better as they progress the product. Now, on the far right, you can add a filter. This is called a data source filter. There is also different filtering inside of the product. I find that a lot of people will add a filter here, not tell anybody, and then when people are generating visualizations on the sheet, on this worksheet, they won't understand why is certain data missing. So let's double click and add a quick filter. So I'll click add and let's do date, double click order date, and let's just do years. I'm picking years because that's very simple to get through. We'll exclude this, click OK again. Notice there's a 1. If your Tableau end user does not know about data source filters, they will be lost if somebody adds a data source filter. I always recommend if you have a data source filter, maybe considering talking to your database administrator or your data engineering team and ask them to apply this filter prior to it happening in Tableau. The same can be said here when generating relationships. Let's just say that this is the relationship we need. Why make Tableau do that? Why force it to be a database? It can do amazing things, of course. And you can also add new data sources and cross-join different, flat files like we're doing now with Excel to maybe a Google Sheet. Now, that is really an exciting thing to do. However, is it the fastest? It's always good to bring this information up with your IT team. Make sure that they understand that you're adding filters to your data source even before you start to use it in your data visualization tool. Ask them if they can help you. If they can remove data from your report, it will speed things up. You don't need Tableau becoming your database, your data warehousing tool, your ETL tool, because it's not. Tableau is to help people see and understand their data. It's there to help people visualize the information that is stored in these data files, databases, live connections. Now let's move on. This bottom portion, data grid, there's also this click here, which is called your metadata grid. This is helpful if you're unfamiliar, let's say, with what data types you're using, then you can make changes there. However, you can also make changes here. This is more of looking at the metadata. So your column names, what table it's coming from, and then a remote field name. On the far right, there's a couple of checkboxes, show aliases and show hidden data. If you have hidden fields, this is normally coming from people hiding things over here, which they can right click and hide. Now it's gone. However, if we go to the data source tab, or we can double click on this, we can come over here and show hidden fields, and we'll be able to find the fields that we had just previously hid. Now let's get rid of our data source filter before we progress. So if you need to get rid of a data source filter or check out what's going on, you just simply click edit. And we can click it to remove it. and click OK. Now we're back to where we were. Now that you know a little bit about the data source page, you will be able to start to bring different elements around different organizations, different silos within your business, and even external data providers. And this will allow you to see and understand what's happening. And within your data source page, you're allowed to manipulate, start to potentially join, or even consider what transformations you might need in your data pipeline. Now that you know about the data source page, I'm very excited to see what you will start to create. Have a good day.